My name is Sylvia Petroza. I am a mother of 3, and I've been married 11 years, but together with my husband for 20 years.
When you start to work on your house, that's where you see all the crazy.
Scleroderma is a connective tissue disorder. It's basically the hardening of the connective tissues in the major organs.
Okay.
The time that I was diagnosed, I was actually a mom for the very first time. Kiara was about 5 months when my symptoms, which was mostly the Raynaud's, got progressively worse. I was, doing bottles and I couldn't even hold a bottle, and I was just inflamed and swollen, and I was having a really hard time. But with the pregnancy and the hormones and everything else, I was just like, this is normal. I did gain a lot of weight during my pregnancy, so I'm like, my body's just going through changes. My sister was actually, I have 3 older sisters, and one of them was telling me for years convinced that I had lupus.
I noticed that there was something wrong from a very early age with Sylvia. She was probably around 6 or 7 when I first started noticing that her fingers would turn really white in the cold. And when she was in direct sunlight, she would get these rashes on her face. And I always suspected that there was some underlying issue, but I didn't really know what it was because there was no internet.
So when I went to the doctor, I explained to him my symptoms, and he's like, yes, it seems to be like a circulation problem. I'm like, well, can you test my ANA? My sister thinks I have lupus. And he laughed at me. He's like, you're fine. Do you have any other symptoms, this and that? I'm like, no. So I begged him basically, and he's like, fine, just to put your mind at ease, I'll test your ANA. And then sure enough, I don't know, it was not even a week later, he's like, can you please come in and see me immediately? He's like, so your ANA tested positive. So now we're gonna do blood work and see exactly what you have. So then again, the blood work was done very quickly, and he called me back in and he said, okay, you have scleroderma, systemic scleroderma. He's like, the first thing he said to me was, don't Google it. And I'm like, oh God. So obviously I did. I disassociated myself from it, and I was like, that's not me. That's not gonna happen to me. I don't feel like that, so I'm okay. But then I'd get moments of panic, when I'm looking at my daughter, and mom guilt sets in, and I'm like, oh, what happens? It's so unpredictable. Where am I gonna be? Am I gonna see her grow up? And so I think it's difficult to, I tell myself I'm just being dramatic, or, Flav's really good at kind of getting me out of my own head. And he'd be like, let's just look at the facts. You don't have this, you're fine.
What does the groundhog have to do with what time the sun goes down? If the sun goes down, whatever time the sun goes down, that has nothing to do with the groundhog.
I mean, it's definitely not, it's not easy all the time on your relationship, especially in the wintertime when she upped the infusions to twice a month. So every 2 weeks she's got to go and have an infusion, right? So, I mean, she goes and then she gets back, and the type of infusion they're giving her now is much heavier. So if she's there for 2 days, recently she's been there for 3 days, the recovery time is probably at least another 3 days before she's actually back up on her feet and, somewhat back to herself. So all in all, the process is a week. So, we might get a week together of her in, half decent condition before she has to go back into the hospital again. So the winters are definitely tough. I'd say that this year has probably been the toughest because, we'll usually find a way to get away together for a week to some kind of sunny destination where, she's not in agonizing pain because of the cold really doesn't help. And that always seems to like fortify the relationship, right? When we get to spend some time together, just me and her. But yeah, it's frustrating at times. It's called a Dutch oven. This becomes like you can put it on top of the countertop, or you can put it in the oven. Well, I don't know if I should send it back. Look at this.
Okay, I'm Philomena DeRubo, and I'm Sylvia's mother. I never heard of this disease, and at first I think I was in denial. I thought it was just something that they're going to find the cure, and that's it. It's going to be resolved. I don't know if I can even put it in words. It's terrible.
So the thing with scleroderma is it affects people differently. And for me, I look different. But if you're looking at me and you didn't know me when I was younger, you'd be like, you look fine. You look, I wouldn't have guessed it. But there's always this like scleroderma face, this scleroderma look where you're like, oh yeah, that's my sclero sister. Like I see that. So there's, some people have involvement where their faces are completely changed. And then our lips, I used to have big lips and I don't anymore. And then the elasticity, it just makes it hard to suck on straws or open our mouths wide. And that obviously changes, like aesthetically, it changes our look. My nose is different from before, stuff like that. And for me, I'm like, there's other people who have it way worse. We do have, my God, the name isn't coming to me now, but it's just the dots all over our skin. These red, there's a name that I know very well, but it's just not coming to me. And there's these red dots, kind of like marks all over our face and our chest. You can have it all over your body. When I'm not wearing makeup, I do have it, but it's not really that bad. But it's still my body. Like I compare it to somebody else and I'm like, oh my God, my heart goes out to you, because it's also uncomfortable. But for me, it's like, I look different. I'm not, I may look good, but I look different. I had to say goodbye to that version of me. And obviously I'm vain, I'm human. Finding the right treatment was one of my biggest challenges, because scleroderma is so rare, and it's different parts of the world. There's different types of medical care and treatment and doctors. And in Canada, there's not that much when it comes to scleroderma. There's rheumatologists, but not specialists for scleroderma. So I had to go through a lot when I was looking for my specialist and trying to find the right specialist for me. In the beginning, I needed to first understand what the disease was, and I had to embrace everything that came with it and all of those challenges. And then as I started to learn more about the disease and the questions to ask and listen to my body a little bit more, I kind of was able to ask the doctors or specialists the questions I needed to ask, and based on their response, I would use my intuition and be like, you're not good for me, I need to find somebody else, or where do I go from here? Eventually, going through multiple specialists, I ended up at Toronto Western. That's where I was kind of introduced to the next level of treatment, where I was being offered things that I hadn't been offered before. And they started me on this prostaglandin infusion, which is essentially a vasodilator that runs through your system for 72 hours straight. But it is a high-risk drug. So as I'm doing the treatment, my vital has to get checked. You get nauseous and your body aches, and it's not pleasant, but it definitely helped. In the beginning years of my diagnosis, it would, be every few months. And then sometimes it would overlap because, the first infusion didn't work. So I was in the hospital for like a week at a time or a week and a half. And then it was leaving the hospital only to go home and have to like come off of all of the drugs that I was on. And the finger still wasn't fully healed. So it was like I was the guinea pig. That's not working. Let's try giving you sympathectomies, where basically they cut between the nerves, like the webbing in your hands, and they cut through, and they say that that could have helped kind of force or better the circulation. So I got one in this hand to start, and then 3 months later I did this hand, and again it was just a temporary fix. Then I had gotten sympathectomy done here, so they cut between the nerves. They had to like deflate my lungs, do this surgery, blow my lungs back up, and then they're like, no, it's just a day thing, you'll be totally fine. That was probably the worst recovery process that I have experienced in my whole life. I'll never forget that. It was horrible.
I'm very proud of her. Oh my God. I think I'm learning more from her and the strength that she has, you know, but to see her and what she does, I'm very proud of her, but I wish I could just take the pain away.
Like for me, there's really nothing to focus on. There's just like everything in total, like with everything that's happening with her, and like I just don't like seeing my mother in pain. So there's just like sometimes there's like flows of like anxiety, and you're just like I'm just like scared. I don't like want to explain these things to my mom because she already has so many things to worry about.
It makes me annoyed and like frustrated that she thinks that she has to always be strong in front of me. Like I get it. It's like you don't want to have. It's like you don't want to always be sad, right? But at the same time, it's like when you try so hard to not let that pain, like let that show how you're feeling and stuff, it becomes like stressful and even harder to bear.
It's frustrating at times, but at the same time, I mean, if Sil could have it any other way, she would, you know what I mean? If Sil could be living without this disease, she would live without this disease, right? She doesn't want to live. So I have to remind myself of that all the time, you know, which isn't always easy, but it's achievable for sure.
I think this past year has been next level stepping into my scleroderma new normal. Because for so many years I've been dealing with the severity of my Raynaud's, my infusions, finding my new normal in that, what works for me, what doesn't work, getting this port catheter, and I'm finally like, okay, I'm at a new hospital right now. I'm taking, it's called Elaprost, which is like prostaglandin. It's just stronger, it's better, the hospital's amazing, and I get to this place of after fighting for, advocating for myself, fighting for my health, getting to a point where I'm being treated properly and being heard, I'm like, okay, I can breathe. And then my GI issues start up, like next level. So with scleroderma, you can get esophageal involvement and other GI issues. And for me, over the years, it was hard for me to swallow. Like our esophagus just becomes so tight because the rings around it tighten up. And then when you swallow, food gets stuck. And then the risk of like you feeling like you're choking, but it goes down the wrong tube, and then you risk getting aspirative pneumonia, which basically you can die from. I was depleted mentally, physically. I couldn't be around my kids because I just felt this enormous amount of guilt. I didn't know who the hell I was because I could deal with pain. I got this under control with this ulcer. I'll just bite my finger, carry on with my day, push through, or be in bed, stay in warm blankets. I gave my body what it needed, but I could still manage. I could still eat. I could still have those moments. Those moments in between that I live for were far and few in between.
Every day she has a good day. You know, that's what I say, today's a good day. It's funny when I'm asked, oh, how's your daughter? You know, everybody seems to think that it's just gonna go away. But my response is, she's having a good day. And that's the only way I'm dealing with it.
Well, I think that once we were at my brother's place and she was saying how she had to come to the London hospital, and I say, hey, we're in London. If you have to come, there, we're there. Even if you have to stop by for dinner or lunch, like, we'll be happy to have you because we had a good relationship, so why not, right? So then she said, yeah, I might have to be there for a night and stuff. I said,
Yeah, I think
you're
because
more than welcome.
she said that she was going up and down for this treatment, like coming in the morning, going at night, and coming back. I said, come on, we are right there. You have to stop by us. That's it, done. And then after 1 week, she said, oh, I'm coming over. I said, perfect.
The thing is, when she's in pain, I feel bad because when she goes to the hospital, she comes back, I can see she's tired. Her face is like struggling. Sometimes I had her here and her hands were hurting, and that was bad to see. I felt so bad. I felt so, powerless.
So I've had some real conversations, real tough conversations with my husband about the what ifs. A lot of the time, those conversations are, don't even think about that. Let's not go there. You don't have any other involvement. But I think the scare that I had this past year was like, yeah, it can happen so quickly. Like, things can change drastically with scleroderma so quickly, and that's the fear. So right now I don't have to necessarily have lung involvement or kidney involvement, but I can wake up tomorrow and I can have it. And I know that it may sound to some people like, it's just the facts. It's not being dramatic. Like, people say I can wake up and get hit by a car tomorrow. You sure can. But when we're talking about scleroderma, those things are very real.
I can't deal with it. Try not to think about that. The only way I go ahead is I take it day by day.
That's usually my biggest concern, to tell you the honest truth. My biggest concern is them and them watching their mother not well, which can be traumatic on a young kid, you know what I mean? They've come to, amazingly so, they've come to a point of acceptance that this is part of their mother's routine and this is what she has to do. And then of course there's that stupid, horrible movie that you just fucking play in your head of worst case scenario and what that might look like for them, Be hard for me, but really hard for me. I'd find a way to move on for sure, but I can imagine the trauma it would cause in my children's lives if we have to get really raw and realistic here, right? Losing your mother at a very young age is not, it's not easy. Losing any parent for that matter at a young age, but there's something about the relationship between a mother and a child.
I'm used to seeing her in pain, but I don't want to see anything go wrong if she could get really hurt or something and stuff, and I don't want her to die.
So I reached a low, like the lowest of the lows. There's so many different versions of the diagnosis and versions of myself throughout the years. Denial, anger, all those things. And then I reached an all-time low and just totally crashed. And I got to a point where I was like, who am I? What am I? Do I fight? Do I surrender? So I needed to do some healing on myself from the inside out. I actually got a life coach and started doing some hard inner healing, like next level healing that I've never done before. And that kind of helped me step into this new version, the new skin I'm in. I was able to find my new normal, but also live beyond my diagnosis. So that's when the light clicked, and I'm like, you know, I'm lighthearted, I like to laugh, I like to make jokes, I like to make an impact, and that's exactly what I did. And that just goes with how I started my merch and my tagline, fuck scleroderma. My friend actually, her sister designed the merchandise and the graphics for it, and that kind of just kicked off. It started at the annual walks. We would just bring the hoodies, and then it was such an attention grab. And then even people in the grocery stores, when I would wear it out, would stop me, and I was able to finally like educate people about this disease. So then I think over the years, I was like, okay, there is more beyond my diagnosis. There's so much more to me, and now I feel like I found my purpose. You know, there's so many different versions of scleroderma. People live with scleroderma so uniquely. And for me, yes, I do have the times where I suffer and stuff, but there's so much that I can still do. So I can be the voice for so many people who can't. And I feel like in all of that, that's my gift. So raising awareness for a rare disease is what I'm meant to do. And if I inspire 1 or 100 or 1,000, it means so much to me. Getting those DMs, getting people reaching out to me, it's like my medicine. It's like my spiritual medicine. So then as the years went on, it kind of escalated, and I got more involved, and I got asked to speak at events, and that was just like next level feeling of amazingness, and you know, people reaching out and talking to me and telling me how much I inspire them, and just something so simple like sharing my story did that for you. Wow, like what else can we do here? How else can we raise awareness? And so it's now a whole line of like pillows and hoodies and hats and so many other things that we have on the go. I have a whole website now, and it's by the Autoimmune Slayer. So the merch is Fuck Scleroderma by the Autoimmune Slayer. And it's really, really cool. I do share the proceeds with Scleroderma Society of Ontario, but I also am hoping to eventually make what I'm doing now like a docu-series. There's so many people who are living with scleroderma, and like I said, living with it so uniquely, and I've been blessed enough to be able to meet some of these people, and their stories are just like mine, inspiring, and they all have something to say. We all need to be able to share our stories because it's part of the process. So eventually I want to, you know, travel and, you know, give them the opportunity to share their story too, because, you know, I want to hear it, and I'm sure there's so many other people out there who want to hear it. So that's kind of like where I'm at right now. And it's been a ride. Like, it's been amazing. And now I've been blessed to have this kind of like unstoppable, like, yes, fear, but fear is like my drive now. If I'm scared of something, it's like, that means I gotta do it. Like writing the song, and then, oh, I'll never sing, or I'll never go in studio. And then it's like, then I'm in studio, and then, oh, I won't make that a video. And then we made it a video, and it was like, I cried, and I'm not super emotional, but I cried because I'm like, I've been wanting to do this for so long. What the hell? I had to get diagnosed with scleroderma to actually have the balls to do these things. So I just want other people to know that life is possible beyond the diagnosis. You just gotta change your mindset. And there's so much life to live. Even if my life isn't as long as someone else's, at least I know I got as much in there as possible, and then I've touched the lives of so many other people. It makes getting diagnosed with scleroderma a blessing instead of a curse. My name is Sylvia Petroza. Fuck scleroderma.